Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Look at Ironclad Tactics. Ironclad Tactics is a game, collectible card game, strategy game, some elements of tower defense, set in an alternate history, or an alternate version of the US Civil War, where steampunk style, like big robots have essentially become a big part of military strategy, and whoever controls them is likely going to end up winning the war between the Union States and the Confederate States. This is from Zachtronics Industries, who you may know for their work on Space Cam, which came out, I guess, in 2011, like winter 2011 on Steam. Anyway, so obviously the very, very different game than Space Cam. A lot of people are going to be familiar with Ironclad Tactics because I did cover it in my PAX at Home series. But if you didn't see that, then we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Ironclad Tactics, what's different between this build and the build that I played before PAX. Spoilers, not really all that much. I mean, that was only like a month ago. But let's get started here. And we'll play a relatively early-ish mission. I've played about 2 hours of this so far, which represents, you know, I guess we're looking at maybe 13 missions so far, but the first 3 or 4 of these are tutorials, so you don't actually get into like your own deck building or anything like that. This game kind of reminds me of like a mixture of Scrolls and a tower defense game, but I don't mean tower defense in a like reductive, derisive way, because oftentimes I'm like, ugh, tower defense. That's kind of an unfair way to treat it. It's got elements of tower defense, but only in the way that you kind of act and maneuver and come out with your enemies. Anyway, let's just get started here, and I'll try to demonstrate what's going on. Now, keep in mind, there is a this is a real-time game. It is not a turn-based game, so there's going to be times where I have to act fast, and I might not be able to explain my actions appropriately in the amount of time that I'm given. I'm going to try to think out loud here just so you can understand the mechanics, but if I forget something, I apologize. So basically, at the start of every turn, you have a certain number of action points. You also gain action points every single turn based on how many of these flags you control. So your base value for action points, let's send out this light chassis, is 1, and then every single one of these that you capture is worth a certain proportion of an extra 1 per turn. So since there's only 2 of these out here right now, each one of these is worth 0.5. If there were 3 of them, then they would be worth 0.3 each, if that makes sense, or I guess 0.33. So what you want to do, let's give ourselves the revolver on our chassis here. The game is based on victory points, which is where kind of the tower defense kind of style comes in. What you have to do is get 8 victory points before your opponent gets 8 victory points. There are some levels where you have different objectives. Sometimes your level is, or your objective is just to defeat a boss. Sometimes it's to survive for X number of turns. But for the most part, it usually ends up being, I wonder if I can kill this thing. Let's do a field repair quickly. For the most part, it ends up being get 8 victory points before your opponent, which is easier said than done, I must admit. I think we're going to be able to kill this before this kills us. We have 1 damage. He has 1 damage. Now, there's many different kinds of units you can send out. Some of them are light chassis, as you can see. Some of them you can get infantry units like riflemen, musketeers. I have one right here, Zouave. I hope that's even close to the correct pronunciation. And they all have their own kind of unique properties. They all have unique health values, unique damage values, etc., etc. So we're going to send out our Zouave here. He has 1 damage, 2 health, and he also has armor, so that every time that he gets... Oh, let's send out another light chassis here. Every time that he gets attacked for 1 damage, his hat just falls off, but he still lives. And you can only capture these flags, which generate AP, with your infantry units. So it's a very smart idea. I think I might lose this one, but it's a very smart idea to use them to capture, or use them in a lane where you have infantry as well. Although, this guy is going to get crushed here. So I think it might be in my best interest to actually maneuver him. Oh, but my maneuver card's gone now. Okay, I'm probably in a very terrible position right now, in actuality. I still don't have another maneuver card. God damn it. This game gets very, very difficult, by the way. This is far from a tutorial mission. My Zouave guy's gonna get crushed there. The Ironclads always beat the non-Ironclads, the infantry in combat. So let's have this guy move forward. He is equipped with the weapon, the Cavalry Saber, which will allow him to cut in a certain range around him. So what you want to do, you want to manage, you know, the victory points and action points on the field. Let's give ourselves a rifled musket here. This guy might get killed unless... Oh, let's field repair him quickly. We might still end up winning this one. It's going to be close, though. And you also want to manage that with kind of like tactics or spell cards that you have in your inventory. So things that allow you to heal your Ironclads, for example, or cards like Maneuver, which allow you to maneuver your Ironclad maybe out of the way of an enemy or into the way of an enemy that you can crush very easily. This is not a good deck for what I want to do here. What I do want to do here is... you know, get 8 victory points as fast as possible, but I focus this much more on kind of like a defensive style, which is honestly probably the wrong way to have gone about this. I should have gone for some cheaper Ironclads, like that are only 2 action points that can just rush to the end. but I still may be able to come out ahead here. I should just maneuver this guy down and crush that musketeer. But I really need a light chassis to show up, like, right the fuck now. Or anything to show up right the fuck now. Otherwise, they're going to be able to get these 2 to the end much more quickly than I'm going to be able to get my 2 to the end. We get 1 card draw every turn. This isn't going to do it. So I'm going to lose this one. Unless this guy can somehow stop them from moving forward, which is not possible, unfortunately. He'll march forward, and I have lost on the next. I have a light chassis now, but I can't actually send it out. God damn it. All right, so I'm going to lose this one. It's a very difficult game because of the fact that it's not like a Hearthstone or a Scrolls where it's turn-based and you can take your time. You definitely have to be on the ball. It's got elements of real-time strategy involved as well. So, this is definitely also a game where, you know, from a purist standpoint, you're not going to be able to build, like, a killer deck right off the bat. There's RPG elements where if you achieve a certain goal or objective with a certain unit, for example, on light chassis here, if we score victory points 20 times, then we upgrade our light chassis into a jetpack chassis. So this gives us less victory points. It probably flies, is my guess. It also has less health. It costs the same. But by doing this, you know, you eventually get better and better cards. Some of them are, like, legitimate upgrades. That are objective upgrades, if that makes sense. Like, there's no debating whether or not they're upgrades. Let's go to our deck building here, and we'll build a new deck so I can show you an example. For example, we have the Cavalry Saber here, which is 2 damage, and you can see its range there, but I've upgraded it. So if I go to, there's another one called the Officer's Saber, I believe. Yes. That does 3 damage. It's got a slightly smaller range, I guess, but it is a little bit better, I would say. I guess it's not an objective one because it doesn't hit directly in front of it. Okay, never mind. Maybe there are positives and negatives to each one. That's my mistake. So let's do exactly the same mission again and demonstrate how it can be different depending on what deck you have built. So that was a deck that was very heavy in light chassis. And light chassis are great because they're the only ironclads that you can actually use to attack with, at least that I've unlocked so far. As you can see, like prototype Ironclad, much cheaper. It's only 1 AP. It only gives you 1 victory point. It's got less health, and you can equip parts on it. But because it's only 1 AP, it's much easier for me to put out like one of these a turn. So you can put out, or you can have, I should say, 20 cards in your deck. Now, this is a little bit small. This is one of the complaints I have about the game, is that the card variety seems a little bit lower. I much prefer to have a slightly larger deck. But the games in Ironclad Tactics do tend to go pretty quickly, so there's been times when I played like 30 turns, and I think cards, you do get tapped out of your deck, but the cards that you don't play just like go back into your deck. You know, if they get like pushed out of your queue, I think they go back into your deck and you can just redraw them later. I've never been in a situation where I've actually been tapped out and didn't have any other cards coming in. So, let's alternate this one. Let's put 2 light chassis in here so we can do damage and soak up some damage as well. Then we'll put 2 prototype ironclads. And we'll put, what is this up here that I saw? Auxiliary chassis. Deploy 30 times. It's only 2. Let's put 1 auxiliary chassis in here. It looks like you can equip it with a part, which is very interesting. And why don't we put another 2 prototype ironclads in here. So this is going to be very heavy on prototype ironclads. We're going to have to get a lot of these to the exit in order to help us out. And then we have 2 light chassis and an auxiliary chassis, so we should outfit them with some weapons that we can get in our deck. Carbine musket is not so great. I much prefer the other muskets. Where are those? Improved muskets. Now this is a rifle. We'll put... we can make it pretty simple. Let's put 2 of these in here, and why not 1 officer's saber in here as well. Actually, 1 officer's saber is fine. So we have 10 cards now. What else could we get? Let's get some units that are infantry so that I can use these to capture victory points. Or, sorry, the action points. So why don't we get why don't we get 2 scouts? They can't really attack. They can't attack at all, actually, but they can capture action points quickly or flags quickly because they have 2 speed. And maybe we'll get 2 veteran riflemen. Or actually, I much prefer 2 Zouave because of the... Or why not even 3 Zouave because of the armor that they have. And then we can get some other buffs or tactics that we can use. They're basically like spell cards. So we'll get 3 field repair and 2 maneuver that will help us move a friendly unit into an adjacent lane. And we'll save the deck. This will give us a name. This deck is named Wayward Heart. I'm not sure what gives it the name. James West, Tame in the West, so remember the name. Sorry, I had to do it just because it was an appropriate avenue, I guess. But it's a little bit confusing because it does make it a little difficult to... Oh, you can totally rename it. This is Northernlion's LLA deck. So why don't we call it like a rushdown deck so I remember what it is. That is great because I was about to make a complaint that I can't remember the names of these and which each one does. I actually did not know that you could just click on it and edit it. That is something you should probably check before you record a video, but luckily, crisis averted. So, although this is going to annoy some people, we're going to do exactly the same mission just to demonstrate, hopefully, that different tactics can have different levels of success. So, unfortunately, you know, a lot of your success does depend on your starting draw, and I have jack shit for starting cards right now. I really need to get some victory points or chassis or prototypes out on the field. Okay, so we got a light chassis. I'm just going to send this out here. If the enemy gets to the end, it doesn't give victory points, so it doesn't really matter to me. And now we'll hope to get a... Ooh, this is a little scary, but we'll hope to get a infantry on the field as soon as possible. Why don't we outfit this guy with a rifle? And we'll actually have him stand still as well, just so that he doesn't move too close to the enemy. Oh, we can still be hit? God damn it. Okay, so this guy's definitely gonna... Oh, let's maneuver him so we can still get victory points out of him. And he can still hit enemies to the side of him because he's not using a musket, which is smart. So, we might actually be able to stop this guy from getting a victory point while getting a victory point ourselves. But, why don't we... Did I actually... I'm not using the right deck, am I? Oh my god. Okay, 1 second. End match. I think I'm an idiot. We're still using the Brigade's plan. Let's use Northernlion's Rushdown deck. I did the same thing in my Hearthstone video with Total Biscuit. My apologies. Oh, this is much better. So we got Prototype Ironclad. This will be able to crush this man. Not before he's able to get to that point and take it for them, unfortunately. But this is still much, much better. So we have a scout now. We'll just put him in here, and he'll be able to take over this action point spot next turn. So we'll just move these guys forward, and we'll have him stay still just to protect that. I'm pretty sure that this Prototype Ironclad is going to get killed before it actually manages to... maybe not. And we'll put a scout in here as well, so that we can hopefully take over this one. So I'm not going to be able to take out this big Ironclad. What I will probably do... Remember, you... Oh, repair. Yes, it worked. Okay, good. Because the thing that's another quirk that's interesting about this game that a lot of people don't realize when they first look at it is that you actually cannot... just kill an enemy and have that be like the end of it, because enemies will still attack you even after they've lost all of their HP. Please tell me this guy isn't going to die. Good. Okay, we're going to maneuver this guy out of the equation, and we're going to be generating 2 action points per turn now, which is actually super substantial. And we're just going to focus on rushing these guys down, getting some killer victory points, which seems to be working pretty well so far. So let's get a light chassis going in this lane just to make sure we continue to protect our... sections here. In fact, I might want to maneuver him up, and we'll get an auxiliary chassis going as well. You can see your upgrade progress at the top. The game does a very good job of communicating how things are going for you. Okay, we probably want to maneuver this prototype out of this lane, because he's not going to do anything for us. And I don't think we need to equip anything else, in all honesty. Let me put this guy here. I don't know if these are good plays or horrible plays, but oh, well, this guy is definitely going to die next turn, unfortunately. Good, we have another light chassis that I can send out. We have the initiative right now. It's the important part. I don't even need to necessarily equip my units with weapons, which is the interesting part. I'm going to let my scout get out of here. He doesn't need to protect that anymore. But yeah, you can have a totally, like, non-violent win just by capturing certain flags or just basically making your way to the exit. We're going to get this guy out of the way, and I should be able to equip this guy with an improved musket, and then by making him stand still... he will be able to crush this enemy, because this enemy does not have a weapon equipped. And it's looking pretty clear that we're probably going to have a great success here. This guy is going to get pooped on, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll send another rifleman out here so that he can shoot them. And hopefully you're able to follow this. If you're not, I do sincerely apologize. It's just something that's very difficult to kind of talk and play at the same time due to the real-time strategy elements of the game. So as you can see there, my unit got crushed. I will admit, sometimes because the units do look so similar, it can be difficult to see which unit is which, like which team is using each unit, but you're supposed to tell based on the stars or the Confederate flag here, I guess. We are getting fairly close to victory here. Let's do a field repair on this guy so he doesn't die. And I'm thinking... We're 3 victory points away from the end. Oh, we should definitely start this guy moving. You can easily forget to do things like that, or at least I can easily forget to do things like that. But we're definitely going to win this one. So this is exactly what I wanted to show off, which is, you know, for different levels, you're probably going to need different decks. There have been times when I've had a deck and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And then I take it on to another mission, and that mission has a different objective, like survive for 30 turns. And then I'm like, okay, now I really have to build a tanky defensive deck instead of a rushdown deck like this, where I can get away with letting some enemy units through because my units are just faster, or, you know, I've got more of them. We're about to win in like 2 turns here. So, you know, the game is definitely heavy on building your own deck, and there's card variety, but there's not an overwhelming number of cards, at least not yet. So it does make it possible to kind of think of strategy while you're scrolling through the kind of cards in your arsenal. So I think it really works well on that level. Well, I've talked about a lot of positives so far. Let's talk about some of the negatives of Ironclad Tactics. Let's exit the lobby here, and we'll go back to the main menu. So, as of right now, you know, I've exclusively played the single-player mode, and you might be saying, Northernlion, you gotta do your due diligence, you've gotta play the multiplayer mode. Well, the problem is that, you know, I go to random 1v1 here, and I've never managed to come across anybody else. You know, I've let matchmaking queue for like 5-10 minutes, and I've never managed to get somebody else. So this is one of those things where I guess it kind of differs from traditional games criticism, like a normal reviewer that worked for a magazine or a website. You know, they'd get 2 codes, they'd play against each other online, and they'd be like, oh, this is good, this is, you know, how does it work in a perfect world, essentially? Unfortunately, or fortunately, for the sake of honesty, I'm playing this from the perspective of someone who would just be buying the game on Steam, and it seems like there's not really a robust community surrounding the online multiplayer modes of the game so far. So if you buy this, you know, caveat emptor if you're looking to play the multiplayer. The multiplayer, in theory, sounds like a great idea to me. You know, I love playing 1v1 strategy games, especially collectible card games recently have been huge with Scrolls and obviously Hearthstone and people playing a bunch of Magic the Gathering 2013 and 2014 online. This is a unique twist on those that could be really fun to play 1v1. But in my experience so far, I have not seen anybody else online, and that's kind of unfortunate because, you know, I would love to have this with its own kind of robust online community. Just doesn't exist yet. So, in the interest of, you know, being honest and cautious, I would say that if you're buying the game, probably justify your purchase as a single-player only purchase, or you might want to, if you want to play with a friend, buy a 2-pack. I believe they are selling Ironclad 2-packs for $22.99. Might be $25 though. The game itself is $15, and then if you buy a 2-pack and then split the price with your friend, you might save another 25% on top of that. But yeah, if you're looking to buy this game and then play random people online, as of right now, I don't know if that is a realistic prospect. So I can't really comment too much on the multiplayer. Although I will say, you know, there is a skirmish mode. And on the skirmish mode, I guess you can play up to 2v2, and you can invite people into your lobby as well if you have friends that you want to play with. I believe you can even do the story missions. You can play alone or with a friend. As you can see, you know, you can have 1 or 2 people on the same team. But again, you know, you have to invite people privately, I guess, into this one. And I have not had that opportunity yet. So I've exclusively played the single player. Is the game worth $15 for its single player? Well, this represents about 2 hours of play so far. I don't know how many levels there are in the entire game, but it seems likely that you're going to traverse a lot of the United States. And, you know, in terms of the narrative, it's probably irresponsible to hazard a guess, but it kind of feels like I'm like half to 2/3 of the way through the game in terms of single-player missions. You know, I just fought, like, the number 3 big bad, so there's still, like, a number 2 big bad, and then, of course, the guy who looks like he's going to be the endgame boss, but there could be surprises after that, so who knows. Again, do your own research on that. But there is definitely incentive to play through each mission multiple times, because there are conditions for each one. For example, on the Northernlion, there are... If you win the mission, you get these cards. And then there's other optional, more challenging objectives, and if you get those, then you get other cards. So, you know, I got 3 cards for trampling 5 enemy infantry. If I defend the Jefferson statue, I'll get more infantry, and if I play it in a skirmish mode, I'll get more infantry. Actually, I get 2 parts for defending the Jefferson statue. Let's do one more mission here. I don't necessarily want to do a... Let's do this one. This one's perfect, because it actually demonstrates the different kinds of flags that you can have, and why don't we go with the Brigade's Plan. I think this is the deck that I used the first time when I beat this mission. So it might not have some of the kind of later game stuff that my last deck had. I think my last deck wasn't even that later game focused. So we're going to send out our Zouave here. So these are mortars, and the mortars are different than the flags because with the mortars you actually generate victory points as you hold them. I believe once every 2 turns you will generate 1 victory point, which can be really significant. Again, you can win the entire level exclusively by holding these mortars, which is an interesting way to play, shall we say. So like on the first turn, I believe it like lights a fuse, and then on the second turn it fires and you get a victory point out of it. as you can see right here. Hopefully we can take it over and maybe get that for ourselves, and we'll just have our Zouave pause in it, because I think he has to pause in order to make it work. And we can also, you know, use our... I equipped our light chassis with a cavalry saber here. It's not really that useful of an item, because it's not going to actually kill the other chassis, but it will damage him a little bit, I guess. And in this matchup, I actually really like the position we're in, because we have the armored Zouave. He'll be able to block 1 damage, so he just loses his hat. He doesn't actually die every turn, and he's going to be easily able to kill this veteran rifleman. And I kind of like the idea of maneuvering our chassis down here, and the reason for that is that I think I'll be able to, if I can maneuver it again especially, I should be able to stop him from killing my... maybe not. I really thought I would be able to stop him from killing my Zouave there, but it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case. So Zouave is probably going to die here, but he did generate a lot of victory points for me, so I'm kind of okay with that. Let's give this guy a musket here. We only need 5 more. What? We managed to kill him? Holy shit. Oh, we're going to win for sure now. This is going to be over very quickly. Again, there's a lot of stuff to focus on simultaneously, so it can be kind of difficult to figure, to parse, like, and take in all of the elements of the game simultaneously. But let me put it this way. It's a game where I think you're going to be much more prone to mistakes than, you know, other more turn-based or leisurely paced strategy games or collectible card games, if that makes sense. I think it does. It is appearing like we're basically going to win any second now, so I'm pleased about that. Why don't we maneuver our light chassis to protect our Zouave, who is also protecting the mortar, and on the next turn we should be able to get 8 victory points and but yeah, basically just win the game right there. I'm not sure if we achieved any extra special conditions there. It only took 17 turns, which is really nice. What were the other unlocks there? Gain 8 victory points using mortars. We could probably do that. Play skirmish, don't attack with ironclad weapons. That one might be a little trickier. But yeah, that's going to do it. I'm going to leave the lobby here. That's going to do it for my Let's Look At of Ironclad Tactics by Zachtronics Industries. Totally cool game. It is the kind of game where, without the guarantee of a robust multiplayer community, apparently that's my, you know, catch-all phrase for this video, it's tougher to recommend at full price than it would be if there was a community that played this game extensively. The single-player game is totally cool. I haven't even mentioned there's the art is fantastic, and the music is even above and beyond that. So, you know, the visual style is one thing, but the music is really, really, really well done. Story is told through some very stylistic, kind of cartoony, comic book style panel storytelling. It's not the greatest story I've ever played in a game in my entire life, but it's told stylishly, and that's cool. Is it worth $15? You know, that's going to vary from person to person. I would say for the average person, even if you're interested in the game, might be worth taking a little, you know, time to see if it goes on sale a little bit later. Or if you have a friend that you're interested in playing this with, maybe pick it up in a 2-pack and split the price with them to get a little bit of an extra discount. As is, I like Ironclad Tactics a lot. It's not perfect, and it probably isn't going to be my go-to collectible card game or strategy game, just because it is really, really stressful to play sometimes, just because of the real-time strategy elements and how you always have to be on the ball, and it's very easy to make mistakes. That being said, totally cool, and, you know, I'm glad to have spent the time with it that I have spent with it. So take that as you will. As always, there will be a link in the video description below to go to the store page for Ironclad Tactics if you want to pick it up on Steam. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving your support in the form of a like or a comment telling me what you liked or did not like about the video, and of course, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more first impression style videos of indie releases and other games. As always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.